Galileo, the man who challenged the sky. It was a quiet night in Italy. The stars were bright, and the wind was calm. A man stood on his small balcony, looking through a long, strange tube. He whispered to himself, "So, this is the truth." His name was Galileo Galilei, the man who dared to question the heavens. Galileo was born in 1564 in Pisa, Italy, the same city known for its leaning tower. From the beginning, he was curious. When other children played with toys, Galileo played with ideas. He wanted to know why things moved, why stars shone, and why the world was the way it was. His father wanted him to study medicine, but Galileo was more interested in music, mathematics, and the mysteries of the sky. One day, as a young man, Galileo was sitting in a church. He watched a hanging lamp swing back and forth. He tested it using his own heartbeat as a timer. And that's how Galileo discovered the law of the pendulum. He was only 19 years old. Galileo began teaching mathematics at universities. But teaching wasn't enough. He wanted to experiment, to test the world with his own hands. At that time, people believed that heavier objects fell faster than light ones. It was something everyone knew. But Galileo doubted it. He climbed to the top of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, carrying two balls, one heavy, one light. Students gathered below. He dropped them both. And to everyone's surprise, they hit the ground at the same time. Gasps filled the air. Galileo smiled. He had just proved one of the greatest myths in history wrong. Years later, Galileo heard about a new invention from Holland. A spyglass that made distant things look close. He didn't see one, he just heard about it. But within a day, using only his imagination and skill, he built his own and even made it 10 times stronger. For the first time, a man could truly see the universe. Galileo pointed his telescope to the sky. What he saw changed everything. He saw mountains and craters on the moon, showing that it wasn't a perfect, smooth sphere. He saw 4 small stars moving around Jupiter, the first moons ever discovered. Around another planet, he saw countless stars inside what people thought was just a cloud, the Milky Way. And he realized the heavens were not perfect. They were real, physical, and full of motion just like Earth. He wrote his discoveries in a small book called The Starry Messenger. People were amazed, but the church was not happy. At that time, the church taught that Earth was the center of the universe. The sun and stars, they said, moved around us. But Galileo's telescope told a different story. He supported the idea of Copernicus, who said the Earth moves around the sun. Galileo began to speak openly about it. He said, "I do not believe that God gave us eyes and minds for us not to use them." But those words were dangerous. One day, church officials called Galileo to Rome. They accused him of spreading lies. They said his ideas were against the Holy Scripture. Galileo tried to explain. He said, "I only describe what I see through the telescope." But the church refused to look through it. They told him to stop teaching that the earth moves. Galileo agreed, at least for a while. Years later, when he was an old man, Galileo wrote a new book called Dialogue, concerning the 2 chief world systems. It was written like a conversation between 3 people, one for the old belief, one for the new, and one in between. But the clever part was this. The one defending the old belief sounded foolish. The church noticed. They ordered him to come to Rome again. This time it was worse. He was put on trial. The judges told him to say the earth did not move. They threatened him with torture. After hours of questioning, Galileo finally whispered, "I do not believe I have offended truth or faith, but I will obey." He was forced to read a statement saying the earth was still, and after he did, he quietly murmured the famous words, "Eper si move." And yet it moves. The judges didn't hear it, but history did. Galileo was kept under house arrest for the rest of his life. He was not allowed to write, teach, or even meet students. But he never stopped thinking. When he became blind, he said, "My soul can still see what my eyes cannot." He continued to write with the help of friends, using his memory and his imagination. Even in silence, his ideas moved faster than light. Then one quiet evening, An earthquake shook Italy. People ran outside, terrified. Galileo, blind and weak, sat calmly in his chair. He whispered, "The earth itself moves, and now everyone can feel it." It was as if nature itself agreed with him. That was the last great moment of his life. He died in 1642, the same year another genius, Isaac Newton, was born. It was as if knowledge had passed from one hand to another. Many years later, the Church quietly accepted that Galileo was right. The earth does move around the sun. And the man they silenced became one of the loudest voices in human history. Today, when we look at the stars, we are really looking through Galileo's eyes. He taught us that truth doesn't fear darkness, because truth shines on its own. Galileo once said, "All truths are easy to understand once they are discovered. The point is to discover them." And perhaps that's what makes him so special. He didn't just look at the sky. He looked beyond it.